first impressions.
I loved it. And I know I'd already watched it when it premiered, and I loved it then. But watching it again, it is such a strong pilot. It is beautifully shot. The music is amazing. Like, there's so much information, but it doesn't feel overstuffed at all to me. And just like everybody is so good in their roles, especially Kennedy McMahon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally on board with all of that. I feel like pilots these days, we've said how they can feel pilot-y, and that's so on the nose. But what I mean by that when I say that is that they have to have the adventure wrapped up within 40 minutes, the first adventure. So that doesn't always leave an awful lot of room for character. And the thing that surprised me the most about Nancy Drew was how much character work there was in it. They were taking big, long moments to develop these characters, particularly Nancy, of course, and let us get to know her and the struggles in her life. And like, this stayed with the character. They honed in on it so much so that the first adventure was not finished by the end of the pilot. It felt like a part one, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a really, really good way, because there's more to not just the story. We know, anyone who's familiar with Nancy Drew knows that the character likes to solve things. So of course this episode is going to lend itself to a villain of the week, ghost of the week kind of thing, that Ghost is spurred at. But the pilot didn't do that. The story isn't over. There's so much mythology and story and character work to explore. And the atmosphere of it, it was glorious. I remember seeing the trailer and being intrigued, but I didn't think it would be this good. Totally on board with it.
Yeah, it opens the world so nicely. Like, every scene feels like it's needed, whether it's like to develop the character or to develop the plot. And I liked how it held a lot close to the vest until we're moving further and further towards the end of the episode. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, are they doing a supernatural Nancy? Because usually it's never like, well, in the games, they kind of play cute with it. Like, so she'll solve a mystery and there'll be a reason for everything that happened at whatever haunted mansion she was at. And then occasionally like a ghost will appear behind her, like it did at the end of this episode. And then so you're left wondering, was it a ghost or is someone still playing tricks? So I'm trying to, like, if I didn't watch it, knowing that it is going to turn into a supernatural mystery drama, would I be like along for the ride to try to dissect whether it is going to be someone messing with her or is actually a ghost? And I think I would be. I think that's the thing that hooks you besides the characters. And honestly, they did really well with her grief too, over her mom, the loss of her mother, and whatever her father is doing over there with her mom's best friend.
Yeah, there's a lot on the burners.
Yes.
And that's it. We know obviously, looking back, and we've seen at least one episode between the three of us already, that this show will become a supernatural show. But there wasn't that much supernatural stuff to deal with in the first episode because, again, it was on the back burner, all character-centric stuff. And then they tease you with, is it supernatural? I love the conversation they had in the diner about, is it the ghost? Do you believe in ghosts? Could it be ghosts? So the fact that it's not already a pre-established thing in that world makes us ask questions. I know we know the answers to those questions already, but it's fun to look at it like that and try and take yourself out and see, would you have been along for the ride after the first episode? And yeah, I absolutely am, and I would have been if I had tuned into it back when it first debuted.
They also, I love a pared down cast. Like, I love how we're not trying to have the main cast and then the supporting cast is everywhere. And then you have minor characters that are everywhere and you're trying to keep up with everybody. Like, they knew what they wanted to do. And everyone has a strength that can be used and everyone has a secret. So I love that. Like, it wasn't just, so when Nancy goes to go try to solve what happened to the rich woman whose name I don't know.
The one that her name is Tiffany Hudson.
Thank you. So when she's trying to solve Tiffany's murder, like, it's like she begrudgingly realizes she can't do it by herself. But also George, and I'm gonna get names, y'all. I truly am. But the British one,
Bess.
Yes.
Bess. Yeah. So George and Bess, like, they each had something that they could give to the story. It wasn't just those two standing on the side of the beach watching Nancy work, which can happen sometimes in shows. So I'm glad they were like, no, we're gonna make everyone useful. And you're not going to waste your time.
Yeah.
I love Ace. I know you guys aren't shocked, but I love him. And I love Nick too, because he's so mysterious. And he scared me when he came up behind her in that one scene. I had jump scare. I was out of my skin.
I love the way they've built them all together. None of them feel like supporting or guest characters. And I know that when you watch shows like 8 or 9 seasons in, you know what I'm talking about. The supporting cast can have their own separate thing to do, which isn't that enticing. It's nice to see them all involved in the main story, that everyone feels like they have a purpose. And then the fact that at the end of the episode reveal that they all have a secret. Again, we know some of the direction the show's going to go in. They will become the Scooby Gang of the show. But it's really nice to see that, can you trust this person? Like, what are they hiding? There's an awful lot of underlying mystery that the pilot didn't explore, but it left you on such a hook that you do want to tune in to find out more. And it's really funny because they all did kind of tease that Scooby Gang element where they could work together. But at this stage, we don't know if they can all be trusted because everybody's hiding something. I really love that.
Yeah, and so like when you, as a viewer, you end up being like Nancy by the door after she closes it when Nick came to go help fix her car, and she's like crying. I was like, "Me too, girl." Like I know what happens, and I'm still hurt by the secret that you didn't know about.
I'm just thinking, there's just so much in this episode that is just so good. There's so much that you can like connect with. There's so many, like the opening where they introduce the dead prom queen and that whole like through line that goes through the episode that's not really like answered and nothing's revealed about it. There's just even more questions when she finds the dress, and it's just like, okay, what's happening here? Like, I don't even know. I think I've seen 7 episodes and I don't know how any of this was resolved, but seeing it again, I'm like, okay, why did I ever stop watching the show? Now I need to know how all of this is connected. And I loved how she was recording the fireworks. I don't know how much I believe that that's what she was actually doing, because it's like, I don't, Nancy, come on, I know you were up to something else, even if she didn't realize it. And then she didn't realize till later that she had recorded the whole parking lot and she could see what was happening there. I thought that was another clever little a twist that was also connected to character, because it was kind of connected to her family life, but then it came in to help with the mystery. Does any of that make sense? I feel like I was just talking.
It does, because like she says she was recording it because she would watch the fireworks with her mom. So she was going to record the fireworks despite her mom being passed, so she was going to watch them at home. And I remember when she put the phone there, I was like, girl, you're gonna get the whole parking lot though. Can we just not take our 15?
No, I feel like
look up at the sky.
She may have wanted to record the fireworks, but I don't know. She's naturally nosy, and I know she just does stuff like that for fun. So I'm like, Nancy, it was the fireworks, whatever.
Yes, she really is though. That when she takes the flathead to go open her dad's drawer, because she's like, did he really think I wasn't going to look? Like, so you need to get something like more concrete to keep your daughter out, because if it only takes a tool for her to get to your files, you need to stop trusting her as much.
Yeah, she can't be stopped.
And I like the sorry, I like the way they used the narration to add quirkiness, because again, some of the dialogue had to work overtime. It's a pilot, that's normal. Some of the voiceover did work overtime, but then they kept using it in like sarcastic fashion. She was like, oh, did he think I wasn't going to do this? Or like when there's a shocking moment, you can hear what she says in her head before she says something out loud. And I think that really added a lot of character to it, because pilots are known for their voiceover and it can be a lot. And again, the opening scenes, there was a lot of visual, but there was also a lot of dialogue. So the fact that they continued to use the voiceover in such a clever way, I think it really like positioned her as a really strong character. And I know you know who Nancy Drew is going into it, because Nancy Drew is bigger than just this show, but they really did very well establishing a new version of her with just a few lines, and I love that about it.
I usually hate narration, but I really enjoy it in this because it's another extension of Kennedy's performance, which I wish I had the words to describe the little things that she does. Like, she'll linger in a scene, just the way that she stares at some of the characters. She doesn't always use her words to be expressive, which it's like, duh, that's what acting is. But I don't know, the way that she redefines this character, which I really haven't seen I'm unfamiliar with Nancy Drew as like a whole property. But just the way that she takes a hold of this character and the little choices that she makes or just like I was having so much fun just watching her perform. And I think this is one of the first thing that she's done, which is like, holy crap, like amazing.
I think it's she's always, you can always tell Nancy's thinking.
Yeah.
Like there doesn't seem like there's a moment where she doesn't have a thought, which seems strange to say because you're like, obviously everyone's always thinking, but it's just like the gears are always turning. You can always tell throughout all the conversations she's filing information away for later. And there's 2 points. So like I think the voiceovers are a nod to the games. Like the sarcastic side bits, like after a piece of dialogue, that's game Nancy. And I just love Kennedy does it so well too, because she manages to make that sarcasm fun. And like you're in on the joke with her. But then also when she redoes a conversation that she just had, so I thought it was very cute when she did the exact same thing with Nick that Nick had done with her to calm her down, like verbatim, even with the cheek touch in the truck. And I was like, that's so cute. I know y'all don't last, but I'm gonna enjoy it while I can. And I really want to find out why they don't last, like what happened.
I know.
They have great
I was
chemistry.
thinking about that they do, and I was like, is this just like a situationship? Do they never really like fall in love? Because I'm like, how does this turn into her being with, spoiler alert for anybody else that's beginning this journey with us, but I think we all know just from being on the internet that she and Ace end up getting together. I'm like, how does that end up happening? I guess that's another point of me really wanting to be on this journey and watching the show, but I'm like so impatient that I want to know.
Yeah, and the first episode, there are other shows out there like this that, like you said, set up kind of like that, like situational romance, and that one of the characters aren't usually fully in it, and then the alien or the detective, whoever comes to town, and then the main character's like, look at this person, and that clearly sets up that story. But there was none of that here. So like Nancy and Nick have such a interesting relationship. It's going to be interesting to see how that grows and then ultimately falls apart.
I hope it lasts a little bit longer, because one of my biggest pet peeves in, I guess I'll say teen shows, I don't know if that's what we would call this, but for example, like One Tree Hill, when we meet the characters in the pilot, Peyton and Nathan are together, but they like break up kind of like within the first few episodes. But that history has to be part of the whole series, even though it's not a part of like the whole season. So it's like, why is it, I don't know, it's just like setting up a dynamic that isn't actually important. So I hope that this whatever it is lasts longer than like the first fourth of the season or the first few episodes of the season, because I don't know, I just don't want it to be something that's like, oh, remember when that happened and it didn't really amount to anything, just like Peyton and Nathan.
Yeah, because in One Tree Hill they would bring it up occasionally, and it was always to like for them to talk about how like they weren't right for each other, or the things that they did to one another that was hurtful, or that time it came back because of the tape that they had found, and she had found out that Brooke was messing with him at one point. And it was just there for drama. I don't think Nancy Drew's gonna do that, but like since she and Nick are together, I want like their way to, like when they break up, then their way to friendship to be a thing that still exists in this show, where they care for one another even though they've moved on. So I think one of the things that has deterred some people from watching Nancy Drew is the comparisons it got to Riverdale. I haven't rewatched the pilot other than aesthetic, and that's only a little bit. There's literally nothing about Nancy that is anything like Riverdale. Like, would you put them on the same list together if you were suggesting shows of this nature? Sure. Like if someone liked Riverdale, I would tell them to watch Nancy Drew and vice versa. But I wouldn't say that means that you're like looking at a Riverdaleized Nancy Drew in any capacity.
See, I agree with you. And I feel like at the time when it premiered, I kind of felt the the comparison a little bit more. And I feel like that was just like the proximity to Riverdale being premiering and how big it was in the beginning. But you're right. It's just there are similarities, but I think there's a lot of differences. It's not quite as campy, at least not yet. Like it's not like tongue in cheek. It's very kind of I don't want to say straightforward, but it's not in the same way of Riverdale kind of is like wink wink nudge nudge we're gonna get crazy. um but yeah, they're both a little dark, a little spooky, a little something's not right here, but um yeah, I wouldn't say that they're just from knowing what I know now about Riverdale, absolutely not.
Yeah, and I feel like the CW was kind of banking on the fact that they aesthetically were similar in that they're both young shows that like revamp older properties. They reimagined it from a very like teen perspective, and obviously there's a mystery at the heart of it. So, and because they were promoted quite heavily together, so I think that maybe where the comparison came from. But no, I totally agree. Even though Nancy Drew is working with supernatural elements, everything about it feels so much more authentic from a character standpoint. We loved Riverdale in the beginning, and because of what it was, it did accentuate things. It made things far more eccentric than they needed to be. The characters were really larger than life, whereas this feels a little more stripped back and authentic and like an actual thriller novel. And I think that'll help Nancy Drew at least to have more life because it'll not keep trying to outdo itself, if that makes sense. I do agree that on the surface they feel similar, but from a standard point of view, they're completely different.
Thriller is a really good word to use for Nancy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call Riverdale, I'm trying to think in the beginning, I wouldn't really call it a thriller, right?
No, it was thrilling,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't really call it a thriller.
Maybe season 2, it got a little dark.
Yeah, got really dark. No, though it did have dark elements in the beginning too. I'll never be over the episode about the drive-in theater closing, but that's only because that was so hurtful. To find all about that about Jughead, not to have a Riverdale aside. No. But one of the things I do like, really, really like about Nancy Drew actually is that it's not set in high school. It's the year after she graduated. And I do love teen dramas that happen in high school, but they're oversaturating the market. And you really do need young adult shows that take place after high school. I love that it's after high school and our main character is lost because of the circumstances in her life. So you like, that's really relatable. And they made her, this is going to be a shot at Fate the Week Saga. And I'm so sorry for those who are fans of the show. But what I like that Nancy Drew does that I don't think Fate did well is that Nancy has qualities that are not likable, but the narrative helps you see why she is the way she is. She's not girl bossing her way through things that she doesn't understand. Like she knows what she's doing when it comes to solving things. She doesn't know what she's doing emotionally. And that's because she has a lot of emotions and she actually listens. Like you get to the pilot episode and she listens to Nick, who has been trying to be there for her. And she was vulnerable and it ended up hurting her, but and it led to another mystery. But it's just, I like that. I really hate the trend of like female characters who they don't write to have a balance of vulnerability and kick buttness and can do basically anything that she sets her mind to, but she's still open to help once that help is useful. Like sometimes that's not how they're written and it's a little annoying. So I'm glad in the pilot episode for Nancy that was not the case. We broke that down, moved her past it. Like sure, she's going to brush up against it again, but not in a way that makes you feel like she's not going to grow.
I love a flawed main character, and I know people can get stuck on likability, but I don't think that's super important all the time because look, we're not all likable all the time. So like, even though the show's called Nancy Drew and she's our entrance into this world, we want to like her, we want to see ourselves in her, but that doesn't mean that she needs to be perfect or like all of her choices need to be north on the moral compass.
Yeah, and she was going through a lot in that episode, like because of everything that had happened in the previous year. And it felt like you knew her quite quickly and you could accept her because every time something happened, you were like, oh, she's not going to like that. And then she didn't. The character never felt like she bent towards the will of the plot. The plot worked with how she was as a character. And I hope now, because I'm sure there will be episodic stories in the show as it goes on, I hope that it continues to do that, because she does feel like such a fully formed personality early on, with strengths, with flaws, and that's my favorite kind of character, because again, it goes back to that authenticity. She was a very, very real person from the get-go, and I hope it stays that way going forward.
Yeah, because it's nice. It is nice when characters are unfair, because sometimes emotions are irrational. Like, she's unfair with her dad, it seems, and we still haven't unpacked that. But it's like fine, because you can tell there's a rift there that we're not quite sure what happened, but definitely has to do with her mom. Even setting aside, his romantic relationship with her mom's best friend, I am really interested to see what it is that broke between the two of them. But I also like that it's not just like, I mean, like, you can have unlikable characters, and I think there's a worth to that in writing. I just think there needs to be balance. And I don't think there are some writers who can't do both. Like, can you have a whole show about a character that is completely unlikable? Sure, that's Breaking Bad. Like, there's
that's HBO's Girls.
Yes. But you do have to, they can't just be unlikable for the sake of being unlikable. Like, there has to be something in the story you can latch on to. And I think for some shows, again, Fate, there isn't. Which, again, Fate, the Wings Saga season 2, I think is coming out at some point this year, and I hope it's better. That's a Netflix show, y'all. If you want to give it a try, you can. Reed is like,
I mean, I haven't watched it, but I haven't heard great things, mostly from you.
Yeah, I slander it. I'm sorry. I think the Fate Wings girl fandom, I don't even know how to describe it. I guess the Wings fandom, because it's still the whole thing. Anyway, I wrote a slander piece, and I'm not sorry about it, but I do hope the show improves.
Circling back to Nancy's dad, though, I want to say that Freddie Prinze Jr. was supposed to play her dad, which is like iconic that he was even going to be in it. And then when he was recast, it was another 90s heartthrob with Scott Wolf. Like, iconic. I love when these shows, like these modern, I don't want to call it modern, that sounds so weird and dark and makes me feel old, but like these shows for like a new generation, like they bring back the heartthrobs that we loved in the 90s. I don't know, I just love it. He was in Party of Five, Scott Wolf, which I loved when I was in high school. I wasn't in high school when it was on, just to be clear to everybody, because I think I was a child when it was actually on. But yeah, I just want to throw that out. And there's another fun fact that I realized while watching the episode, is that Pamela Sue Martin, who played Nancy Drew in the 1977 series, The Hardy Boys Nancy Drew Mysteries, was the medium that they went to see in the pilot, which I was like, that's fun. That's a cool cameo to have. And Pamela Sue Martin also played the original Fallon on Dynasty, though she has not appeared on CW's Dynasty. Just had to throw that in there. I always have to get Dynasty in.
Once again, the connections are there. I feel like, Reed, if you did a whole board like of Dynasty connections, whether it's the OG or the reboot, you would find a lot of the CW on there. So I just feel like maybe we should manifest that into existence, like a project.
I mean, I'll do it.
Reed in the CW's multiverse. I love the way that the CW always tries to pay tribute to maybe either the WB shows or things from days gone by. You even see it in superhero shows, the way John Wesley Shipp, who played the Flash in the 90s, was Barry's father on the Flash. And I just think that's such a lovely tribute to what came before, whether the previous version worked or it didn't, whether it was legendary or whether it's kind of like a deep cut that only some people will understand. It's always nice to see that, and I feel like Nancy Drew is now the latest example of that. It's always nice to see the stars or the previous teen stars of days gone by honored in like new versions of those shows, and I love that.
I mean, even, I know we're not talking Riverdale yet, but even Riverdale had Luke Perry from 90210 and Molly freaking Ringwald and Madge and Mick. I don't know if I said her name correctly, but like all the parents are icons. And I don't know if the teens that are tuning into Riverdale like understood that, but like I know for a lot of people it was like, oh my God, I'm watching Riverdale for Luke Perry. Guilty.
I think if they recognize anyone, it would be Molly. Yeah. Because the John Hughes movies are everywhere.
And she was in the The Secret Life of the American Teenager.
Oh, yes. We're not
We'll
gonna
leave
get
that
on
there.
one. We do carry a lot of trauma about teen shows. I feel like it's a rite of passage when it comes to television watching.
Right? I mean, we all have that one
we
or
wouldn't
two.
we wouldn't know as much as we do right now if we didn't.
Exactly. It's a part of coming of age for television to traumatize you in some fashion when it comes to their teen shows. Okay, so last thoughts on Nancy. I wanted to immediately watch episode 2, and I was like, I can't, because we gotta save it for the pod.
That was the only downside to feeling like pilot part 1. I wanted to tune into part 2. It was a great cliffhanger, and it just felt like there was so much more to give, and that'll make next week so much more fun.
It will, because Ace is taking pictures of George. George is seeing Mr. Hudson. Bess is living in a man and has the ring, and Nick found something in the car, and I can't remember. Is it a book? I can't remember.
No. Yeah, that was weird. I was like, is it a book? It looks like a box or a book. I don't know. It was something, but everyone's got something going on. Episode 2, I can't wait.
I know. More drama, more mystery, more solving.